Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura.
So today's a very special day. It's the appearance anniversary of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
Oh,
So he is the father of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Prabhupada's guru, like that.
Prabhupada.
So he comes in our disciplic succession, and
He was a judge or something, right?
yeah, he was a judge, court magistrate, and he was in charge of the Jagannath Puri temple. That was the system then. Whoever was the court magistrate became in charge of the temple. So really, big responsibilities, a very important position. And 10 children, grihasta, wife and 10 kids like that. So engaged in many worldly things, but still completely transcendental. Completely transcendental. Wrote so many books and beautiful songs, Vaishnav songs and everything like that. So active, so active. He only slept about 4 or 5 hours a day, and he was writing and chanting and working and in 6 hours work in the making judgments in the court, he did as much as another judge would do in 12 hours. Like he was so efficient. He would do like 12 hours work in 6 hours because he didn't want to waste his valuable time. Obviously you have to work to make a living to survive, but you don't want to work too much. That's also an important point for a Krishna conscious person. You don't want to spend your whole valuable life, just working to pay bills. So you try to work as efficiently as possible and just do the bare minimal amount of work you need to do, just enough to keep your body and soul together. And the rest of the time, do the really good stuff, chanting and reading and writing and associate with devotees and yeah, he was very active in so many areas like that. So wonderful example of how we can become Krishna conscious. Yeah, so special day today. We pray for his mercy and blessings that we can become Krishna conscious. So we're continuing our reading of Caitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-lila, chapter 20, entitled "The Lord Instructs Srila," and the Lord instructs Sanatana Goswami. Text number 9. So just to recap, so Sanatana Goswami, he's in jail. He's talking with the jail keeper, and he's talking with the jail keeper from many different angles, trying to convince him to let him go. He first of all praised him like anything, that you are very learned in the Quran, and you're a very saintly person, and you were very fortunate, like that, which is a very excessive amount of praise, not really qualified for that. But yeah, just making him feel really good about himself. And then he said that it says in the scriptures that if you release a conditioned soul and imprisoned person, you yourself will get freed from samsara, liberated like that, and which is a bit of an exaggeration. And then he said that in the past, when he was the prime minister, he had done many good things for the public, including him. So now's the time that he can repay the favor. I helped you before. Now you're in a position you can help me, like that. So that's quite, normal that you feel indebted if you've received some service from someone. You should feel indebted. How can I repay my debt, like that? So he's using that angle also to make him favorable to releasing him. And then the final and the best way, he's saying, I'll give you some gold. Because a materialistic person, that's their number one interest. So we finished off talking about that. So obviously money is very attractive for the ordinary materialistic person. Of course, a spiritually advanced person is not attracted to money and so forth. But a materialistic person, yeah, that's the number one. And then, of course, in that time, if you go back, like just over 50 years, I suppose, or so ago, people would be having gold and exchanging gold. Only within the last century or less have we changed away from the gold standard to like paper money and so forth like that. And which is real, that's talking about cheating. That's real cheating. That now we don't have any real valuable stuff like gold and silver. We just have some paper, which is like an IOU for the real stuff.
Mm.
Actually, previously it started off as just like an IOU, and and whatever IOUs, which is like paper, that were out in the public, that would be matched by the amount of gold in the bank. But at a certain point in USA, they separated that, so it was no longer necessary. So then they can just print unlimited paper, and it's not backed up by the gold. But ideally, if you were going to do that IOU system, the paper, then it should be backed up by real stuff, by the gold. And that
Mm.
also stops inflation because as you know now, there's so much inflation, and that's why. Because governments, any trouble, they'll just print more money like that. But then it has no value. It has no value.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen somewhere in Zimbabwe or something, they actually buy, even if they buy simple stuff, they talk in millions, millions of their.
Yeah, yeah, so that's what happens. So it gets to
Yeah,
that
that's
point.
ridiculous.
Like that you call it hyperinflation when you need like a wheelbarrow to buy a
Mm.
loaf of bread. You need a wheelbarrow of paper, just to buy a loaf of bread. There has actually been times, happened in Russia and happened in Europe and Germany and in so many places that you need a wheelbarrow load of paper to buy a loaf of bread. So obviously that's just ridiculous. So it's a real stupid system. The best ideally would be to go back to precious metals, which are fixed in quantity. You can't just create more of the stuff, so that keeps the prices very, very, steady, very steady. And also, it's beautiful too. It's beautiful too. And something solid, substantial like that. And it was very good, like in traditional Vedic culture. If ever you had any financial crisis in your household, you would just take some jewelry or your gold utensils or silver utensils, and you could take it to a shop and you could exchange that for whatever you needed, like that. So in emergency, you've got some real value in the house. You can get yourself out of any crisis. Now we have only plastic and, useless things in the house, paper. And if you do get in financial problem, you've got nothing. You don't have anything of real value to exchange, to get you out of any difficulty like that. So it's not so good. So that's just, I thought, good to discuss a little bit about gold
Mm.
and things. And yeah, so now he's offering a bit of a bribe. And we talked about that, is it right for a devotee to act in this political kind of way? Because this is what we call politics, really tricky behavior, sometimes cheating and everything like that. And you have a group of friends and you have a group of enemies, and the friends are the ones that help you in sense gratification, and the enemies are the ones that interfere with your sense gratification, and you use your friends to help get rid of your enemies. All this kind of stuff is like a political kind of mentality, sometimes using very duplicitous behavior, not exactly, bending the truth and everything like that. So is it right that a devotee acts in this kind of political, duplicitous way? And we explained why, that the why is the big question. That are you acting in a political way for your own sake, your own gratification, or are you doing it in order to serve Krishna? In this case, Sanatana Goswami is doing it so that he can go get out and serve Lord Chaitanya. He wants to devote his life, surrender his life to Lord Chaitanya. So that ticks all the boxes. That it said the end justifies the means. There's a saying like that, the end justifies the means. So that is the ultimate end, to surrender to God. And that's the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, that you should just give up everything and surrender to God. So Sanatana Goswami wants to do that. He just wants to surrender to God. So, and God's on the planet right there, and he's going to Mathura. So he found that out from Rupa Goswami the Lord is going to Mathura. So he wants to go there and surrender to the Lord. So that is the highest ultimate goal of life. So that you can do anything to achieve that. Doesn't matter whatever you have to do, but somehow do that. And of course, ordinarily we should try to do everything in a very honest way, truthful way, and so forth. And that's what religious principles also recommend, to be truthful and honest in everything. But however, the nature of the material world is that it's not always possible just to follow that, honest, truth and everything like that. Because sometimes the material world is just, you get to in a real sticky point and you just have to do whatever you have to do to get out of it. And examples I was thinking of is like in the Battle of Kurukshetra, right? Arjuna had to do very tricky stuff to take out Bhishma Dev. They had to put Sikandi. You know about Sikandi? Sikandi was a male warrior, but his previous life was a woman. And his previous life was a woman. And Bhishma Dev had caused trouble for her for that woman. She was a princess. And because of Bhishma Dev, she could never get married in that life. She was not able to get married. And so she had so much hatred for Bhishma Dev, and she performed severe austerities to Lord Shiva to get some way to be able to kill Bhishma Dev. So the result of all that austerity was that in her next life she would take birth as a man, and she would have the ability to take out Bhishma Dev. So that woman, she took birth as Sikandi, and Bhishma Dev had he had said that he had told the only way, because he had also a benediction from his father, who was, what's his name? That sage, his father, Bhishma's father. Yeah, Shantanu, yeah, a great king, yeah. So Shantanu had given him a benediction that you can only be killed if you want to be, yeah, you're only going to die when you want to die. And then he also on top of that, so it's very hard to kill him. So and on top of that, he had given a clue as to how to take him out. He told Arjuna, because he was very pleased with Arjuna. He said, "You'll only be able to take me out if I stop firing my arrows." And then he gave a clue as to what would make him stop firing his arrows. He said, "I will not fire arrows at a woman." So, but there was no woman on the battlefield, but there was a man who was a woman in his last life. So Bhishma Dev knew the history. He knew that it was his destiny was to be his death would be brought about by Sikandi. But Sikandi wasn't powerful enough warrior to kill Bhishma Dev. He wasn't a very powerful warrior like Arjuna and the others. However, the Pandavas used Sikandi to put him in between to put him in between Bhishma and Arjuna, Krishna and Arjuna, and then Bhishma. Sikandi came in between. And then as soon as he saw Sikandi, Bhishma put down his bow and arrows. And Krishna said to Arjuna, now's your chance, pump him up with arrows. So Arjuna just pumped arrows into Bhishma Dev, who had dropped his defenses. And ordinarily, in the Kshatriya rules, you're not allowed to do that. If you're only allowed to fight a Kshatriya who has equal abilities, and then on top of that has to be equal abilities, like Maharati against the Maharati. On top of that, then they have to be, have their weapons. They have to have their weapons, same kind of weapons, and be ready to fight. If they're not, if they've dropped down their weapons or whatever, you're not allowed to just fight them. It's against the rules. But Krishna told Arjuna, you break the rules and do that, and he did. And then the other example is with we said last time with Dronacharya, so I won't say that again. But basically that, Yudhisthira told a lie to Ashwatthama, told a lie to Dronacharya that your son Ashwatthama's dead. And then he became depressed and then he was killed again by Arjuna. And after Krishna ordered him to do it like that. So that's my point. Sometimes the nature of the world is such that the only way you're going to get through the situation is if you do something, that's a bit outside of the normal kind of religious principles of being truthful and blah, blah, blah. So it just depends on, like we said, time, place, and circumstances. So, in one circumstance, you might be truthful and honest. In another circumstance, another time, place like that, you might have to be a bit tricky or whatever like that. So obviously he's in jail and that he needs to do something a bit, tricky to get out like that. Does that make sense? Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that makes sense. As you said, and end justifies the mean. I mean, it
Yeah,
depends on you're not harming anybody. I mean, in this case, probably he's just trying to get into to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is the Krishna, basically.
yes,
Yeah, and that he's not
yeah,
harming anybody. It's
yeah,
pure
yeah,
politics, as you said.
yeah.
The, it makes sense.
And
Yeah.
remember also the reason why he's in jail wasn't very fair, because he didn't
Mm,
like kill anyone or rape anyone or steal
yeah,
anything. The only reason he was
that's
in
true.
jail is because he didn't want to do that job anymore. And he was just sitting at home with Brahmins, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's all he did, and the king was very unhappy that he had, given up his job. So he threw him in jail. So it wasn't very fair in the first place that he was thrown in jail. He didn't really break any law or anything like that. And actually, like I said, if he does get out, which he does, and then go to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the jail keeper's actually will become blessed that he contributed towards him getting free. So it's actually for the benefit of the jail keeper that he gets out, because he will unknowingly, and that's why we talked about, remember, Agyata Sukriti. So
Mm.
unknowingly he will be doing something, very good, but he doesn't know that Sanatana Swami's a advanced devotee, and he doesn't know about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He doesn't know that he'll be getting benefit by serving them. But still, the benefit will be there, even though he has no knowledge about it, like that. So, okay, let's read this one. Number 9.
Yep.
Tabe se yavana kahe shuna mahashaya tomare chadiba kintu kari rajabaya.
अब से यवन कहे सुन महाशय तुम्हार छादिबी किंतु करी राज भया. In this way, Sanatana Goswami convinced the jailkeeper, who replied, "Please hear me, my dear sir. I am willing to release you, but I'm afraid of the government."
Mm. So yeah, he's been won over by Sanatana Goswami's arguments. However, there is one thing that's still a concern, is that the king's going to like cut his head off. So obviously that's a big obstacle. He's going to be worried about that because his boss, who he's working for, the Nawab Hussein Shah, is pretty heavy character. If you annoy him, he'll just cut your head off on the spot, and kill your whole family and everything. I mean, they're pretty severe like that. So that's a legitimate concern he has. So now Sanatan Goswami has to deal with that concern. How is he going to deal with that? Okay, so let's look at that. You can just read English. 11.
Sanatan replied, "There is no danger. The Nawab has gone to the south. If he returns, tell him that Sanatan went to pass stool near the bank of the Ganges, and that as soon as he saw Ganges, he jumped in."
Yeah. So once again, you could say, well, the guy's just outright lying, why but once again, because he wants to see Lord Chaitanya, that's no problem. So, and what I would say, like for example, about lying, which is normally not good to do, a devotee might sometime have to tell a lie to non-devotees, like in this kind of situation. However, devotees shouldn't make a habit of lying, especially amongst each other, especially devotees amongst each other. Shouldn't really, I can't think of any legitimate situation where devotees make a habit of lying, amongst themselves to each other. But sometimes like if you're dealing with crooks, you might have to behave like a crook. You know what I'm saying? It's saying, but devotees are not crooks. Well, hopefully they're not. And then if the devotees are very, saintly people, you shouldn't, behave in a crooked way with saintly devotees. That is not going to be beneficial. So yeah, we've got to be very careful with applying this kind of principle, like telling lies, because he's using Krishna service. That's okay. He's not going to do it every day, but just in this extreme circumstance, he's got no other option really than to, do like this. But not that you make it a regular habit and every day we're like lying to everyone and then you lie to devotees also and everything like that. Now, this is going to spoil our bhakti if we do like that. So the normal principle is, yeah, you always be truthful and honest and straightforward and simple and everything like that. But in extreme circumstances, in dealing with non-devotees who are themselves very crooked, duplicitous, lying, cheating, everything, then you might have to use their own behavior against them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I think it's right. I mean, as you said, I mean, I think end justifies. I mean, if it really required, I mean, in this case, it was really required, and he did it. But yeah, we shouldn't be making habit of it. That's what I mean. The,
Mm.
the end has to be. I mean, if you're talking about Krishna and you can't do it any other way, then it's fine. But if you have a self-interest, you want to do something, you get something, that's not where you're going to lie. I mean, that's where a devotee shouldn't be lying to get something material, or to get
Yeah.
somebody wawa, or somebody's to get somebody's kind of wawa. It's basically to say is that you're not looking for appreciation from others or something, just you should be truthful, I mean, most of the time. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's end justifies the mean. I mean, it has to
Yeah.
be. Yeah,
Yeah.
that you cannot do that. Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
especially
Mm.
wherever you can, you tell the truth, I guess.
And it depends also on your occupation. Like if you're a devotee, but you're engaged in like a Vaishya kind of activity, means like business. Vaishyas engage in business. I mean, Vaishyas protect cows and grow food, but they also engage in some business making profit. So in order to do business and make profit, it's very common in that enterprise that sometimes you have to tell a white lie, right? Because the businessman will always tell the customer, oh, you're my favorite customer, my best customer. I'm not making any profit. I'm just giving to you a cost price. But everyone knows that's a lie. That of course he's making a profit. He wouldn't be a business if he wasn't making a profit. So if he's telling you, I'm giving this to you at cost price, you're my favorite customer, I'm giving it to you like that real cheap, but he's lying. But no one takes that seriously because it's part of the occupation. Do you get it?
Mm-hmm.
In
Yeah,
business, that's just normal. No one would think, well, that's ridiculous. No, that's just like normal. And in a kind of a business scenario, that's very common. However, if you go over to a Brahmana's occupation, no, there's none of that lying. A Brahmana does not lie like that. Prabhupada said, if you ask a Brahmana how much money do you have in your bank account, he'll tell you. He'll just tell you exactly what it is. He's not going to say, I'm not going to tell you. Means he's not going to hide anything. And he's not going to change the actual amount. If there's, uh, 1 lakh rupees in his bank, he's not going to tell you it's 50,000, or he's not going to say it's 2 lakhs. He's going to tell you exactly what it is. So even though that might not be good for him, Prabhupada pointed out, even though for the Brahmana to tell you what you've asked him may not be good for him, but he will still do it because that's the Brahminical principle to tell Satyam. For a Brahmana, Satyam is part of their dharma to be truthful. So even you ask a Brahmana something that may not be good for him, but he'll tell you. And an interesting example is, although Dronacharya was a warrior, right? But actually speaking, he was a Brahmana. But see, Brahmana means teacher. But what was Dronacharya teaching? He's teaching fighting. But the real point is that he's teaching. So more than saying Dronacharya is a Kshatriya, actually he's a Brahmana. But it's just what he was teaching is fighting. So Dronacharya also annoyed one king, and that king also performed a sacrifice to get a son that would kill Dronacharya. And so that son came out of the sacrifice. His name was Drishtajumna. Dronacharya knew that Drishtajumna was destined to kill him. And however, even though he knew he was going to kill him, he didn't hesitate that when Drishtajumna approached him, please, can you become my guru and teach me how to use the martial arts, how to fight? Dronacharya did not hesitate to become his teacher. And other people criticized him. How can you do that? He's going to kill you. He's going to learn from you how to fight, and he's going to use that knowledge that you're going to give him to kill you. But Dronacharya said, no, that's my dharma. That's my duty to teach. So anyone that's interested to learn, to become my student, then I'll accept him. So like that, very, very moral, high moral character like that. So it depends, like also what's your occupation? The person's in a Brahmana, no, he will be telling the truth. And the person maybe is a Vaishya, so sometimes he can tell a lie. And that's not sinful for a Vaishya to sometimes tell a lie in business, but it is sinful for a Brahmana to tell a lie. So it really does depend. Also, another factor is what's your occupation. And then, like I said, on top of that is, ultimately, if you're doing it to please Krishna, it doesn't matter, like that. So it's actually there's a lot of complexities to all these situations. What? You need to know what to do. And Johnny's saying, therefore, you really do need to know what to do. And that's exactly what I was going to say. The real way to deal with all these complexities is you need knowledge. Because if you don't have the knowledge, you won't know what to do and you'll do the wrong thing like that. So, and that's exactly what we're doing here. We're trying to get more knowledge so we'll know how to deal with all these different scenarios in life in the best way and getting the best result like that. So knowledge is so valuable. Dissipating knowledge is so valuable. And so everything we're learning here is so practical that can help us in our lives right now. Like that is so valuable. We can relate it to our lives right now today. It's we're very fortunate to get all this. Mm. You want to say anything about that?
I remember I was reading some book, I just in Bhagavad Gita, I think, which says when to say the truth or something. How do you say the truth? I mean, it's like if you're saying truth to somebody and he's not agreeable. I mean, he's not agreeable with you, and telling him truth is not like, it's like waste of time because he's not going to agree with that. Or if it's not
Mm.
favorable, those kind of things. I think there was 5 or 6 factors. I think, yeah, and that comes from a Bhagavad Gita shlok. I don't remember that, but it comes from that. But somebody explained it very differently. I might find that it was in a book by Om Swami. So it's from Bhagavad Gita. I think one of the sloks says that, but he elaborated it and basically, practically, I think he referred to something in Buddhist book. I think it was, yeah, it was something that if it's not a fact. There were a combination of fact, favorable or agreeable kind of a thing. So it just works out very practically. But I think, yeah, as you're saying, that's all knowledge. You need to see what the situation is, why you have to tell the lie. I mean, if you have to. In this case, you want Sanatan Goswami wanted to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which was like meeting Krishna basically.
Mm. Mm.
His topmost priority was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So
Mm.
yeah, I mean, you have to. It's very difficult, I think, in real life, in material life, to do
Yeah,
that
yeah.
because
Yeah, there's
ahankar comes in.
so many different scenarios. There's no way to bypass or shortcut the need for a good buddhi, intelligence. Then that's what intelligence is for. Discriminating between, what should be done, what shouldn't be done, what's the right thing, what's the wrong thing, and all these different situations that every day is changing, even from morning to night. So many different things are going on. And you need the intelligence to know what to do, when to do it, how much, why you're doing it, all these kind of factors, weighing it all up, why, how, when, who, all these different things.
What about, I mean, somebody,
Even the who is important. Even the who. Is it a Brahmana? Is it a Kshatriya? Is it a Vaishya? Is it a Sudra? That who will change what is to be done in that situation, like that. So you got who and why and where is it? When, like all these kind of things, so it's really complex. And the real solution is we need to be constantly hearing all this wisdom from the Vedic sages and everything like that, which are giving us all these different situations. Okay, and this one that's a Brahmana dealing with this person, and this one it's a Kshatriya dealing with that one, and like that, and there's so many different factors like that. Mm. And ultimately, if it's done for Krishna's sake, that sort of overweighs, outweighs a lot of other minor. Because then you've got major factors and minor factors, so how do you know which is the major one, which is the minor one? That's another thing.
yeah, I was thinking that I think you said that the end justifies the mean. I think we should be doing whenever we are trying to lie or do something. We should see why I'm doing that. What's the end goal?
Mm.
Is it material, or is it you want, it's my false ego which is doing me? How can he, so, those
Mm.
kind of things. But I think one practical should be, if we are aware of that why we are lying. I mean, first you have to be aware of, because a hankar can make you lie, right? You
Yeah.
won't even mind. If you're not aware of
Mm.
your mind, you can just lie because of your conditioning.
Mm.
You might be, if you have a hankar inside. So that awareness is very important, and then you figure out, as you said, I mean, yeah, then you figure out what's the end goal. I'm trying to my own advantage, or I'm doing for somebody else, or
Mm.
is it hurting somebody? Those kind of things. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. It's very tricky. I guess tricky.
Mm.
I'm going to send that things. It's kind of a practical thing. I really liked it. I'll look at the book and I'll send you that.
Yeah,
But
send
it's
it to me. Send it to me. Sure. Yeah.
I think it's from Bhagavad Gita, one of the slokas.
Yeah.
He has elaborated it.
Yeah, yeah. Let me know. Let me know. Yeah, that's good. Okay, let's read the next one.
Tell him,
Well,
I looked for him a long time, but I could not find any trace of him. He jumped in with his shackles, and therefore he was drowned and washed away by the waves.
sounds good. Sounds good. Good story.
Telling him anything what to tell,
He's
Go
so
to the next one.
intelligent. He just thinks of the perfect scam. The perfect scam. He's so clever. That's very convincing. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
next one.
There is no reason for you to be afraid, for I shall not remain in this country. I shall become a mendicant and go to the holy city of Mecca.
Well, he's just really got everything covered. Now he's saying, "Oh, I'm going to go so far away, so no one's ever going to find me again, and no one even and no one's even going to recognize me because I'm going to become like a saint and
Mm.
a mendicant like that and go to Mecca." And he'll be very and the jail keeper will be very impressed. Wow, you're going to Mecca, that's like so he's too good. He's too good. Yeah. Okay, next one.
Yeah. Sanatan Goswami could see that the mind of the meat eater was still not satisfied. He then stacked 7,000 gold coins before him.
Hmm. So that's the thing. I mean, I just heard Prabhupada talk about it today. A man was asking Prabhupada, why is it so important, this rule that you make no meat eating? Because obviously that's one of our regulated principles. So Prabhupada was questioned, well, what's the big deal about no meat eating? Prabhupada said if you're eating meat, you won't understand spiritual knowledge. You can't understand. It like puts a blockage, what you're putting in your body affects your consciousness. So if you put all these dead animals in your body and also, it's even so much evidence that the animal, when they're being killed, obviously they're afraid. So that energy of fear and that's in their body, and then we consuming that, then we
Mm.
become very fearful and anxious and agitated and no peace and everything like that. No wonder. And then there's this saying, right? You are what you eat. So if you eat all
Mm.
this stuff full of stress and everything, then your mind's going to be just too disturbed. You're not going to be able to think very carefully and clearly and everything. So Prabhupada was saying, if you eat meat, you won't be able to understand higher spiritual knowledge. So Sanatana Goswami just realized, God, this meat eater is like real dense. He's real dense. He just doesn't understand all these higher things I'm talking about. So I'll just put more gold on the table. So that's finally what he's done. Because initially he offered 5,000 gold coins, which if you can imagine 500 years ago, that's like, that's
Yeah.
heaps. That's probably multiply that by 50, multiply that by 50, taking into account all the inflation, so that's a lot of money. And now he's gone up to 7,000 gold coins like that. So, and you can imagine the jail keeper's eyes would have like popped out of his head. He would have never have seen so much money in his life, never dreamed about it. Okay, do you want to go on
Indeed.
to the
And
next one or do you want to say something about it?
No, I think
You want to
that's.
say anything about meat eating? Is that about that on that topic?
Yeah, I mean, so we are saying that whosoever not or eats meat, it's not going to be saintly, is it? Or it's not going to be good? Or are you saying? I mean, you're saying he won't be a spiritual. He won't be a spiritual at all,
Well,
or
yeah,
it's
that was
like.
Prabhupada's point as to why we have that principle of no meat eating, because if you know those that eat meat, it makes it very difficult for them to understand the higher knowledge of spiritual life. And I mean, even if the person was, I mean, that doesn't mean someone's a vegetarian or a vegan that necessarily they're going to understand everything, straight up either. But definitely I've seen that, talking with meat eaters, that yeah, then they're not really, understanding very much about what you're talking about. It's very difficult for them to grasp even simple, even like you're not the body or a spirit soul, they just can't get it. It's just very hard to understand. And another angle why meat eating, because you see, involved with killing animals and eating animals, there's bad karma. And part of the reaction, for that karma of killing the animals is that your own consciousness is going to become like an animal. Your consciousness is going to be very dulled down like an animal. Obviously an animal doesn't have a higher consciousness. So you're killing the animals and that, and you're going to get reactions for that. So part of the reaction for killing the animals is that your own consciousness is going to be doled down. I've even seen meat eaters' faces, and sometimes their face looks like the animals they're eating. Like I'm not exaggerating, I've seen people, sometimes their head looks like a pig, and you can tell they eat a lot of pigs. Even the facial, even the body itself starts to change into like an animal, which is what they're consuming. And not always like that, but I have seen people you'd swear that, wow, it looks like his face is becoming like a pig or something like that. And like I said,
Mm,
the saying you are what you eat. So that it definitely dulls down the consciousness consuming these things. And eating the vegetarian food is a different vibration. It's a higher vibration. It's like, you're eating fruits and vegetables and that. It's like living things. It's got more prana, more energy. And so there's different factors. Lowering the consciousness is bad karma from eating the meat and everything like that. So it's bad for the health also. The body's not designed to eat meat. So there's many different factors there. And also on the positive side, Prabhupada said that, and then the reason why we protect why the cows are not to be killed, because in Vedic culture, if someone was a meat eater, they could eat lower animals like goats and sheep and deer and so forth, fish, but should never eat cows. And why never eat cows? And is because the cow's giving us milk, which is a miracle food that nourishes the brain. And by taking the milk, especially hot milk, it raises up to the brain and nourishes special tissue only in the human brain. There's a special tissue that deals with spiritual realization. And that special tissue is mainly developed and nourished through the milk, especially the hot milk. And so on
mm,
the positive side, we should take things that help that higher intelligence develop, like milk and other high energy pranic foods. And on the negative side, we should avoid eating foods like dead animals, meat that lowers lowers down our consciousness like that. Do you want to
Yeah,
say
I
anything
think
about that?
yeah, I mean that makes sense. I mean, even if people who are cooking food, if they are angry, the wives go in there. That's what, if you're angry or if you are, in a different mood. So if you're cooking something, that vibration, that vibe goes into the food as well. That's what I've heard. I mean, so if
Yeah,
somebody is cooking, it's
yeah,
not gonna be good for you. And as you said, I mean, yeah, if you don't need to kill anybody, I mean, your stomach is not made for. I mean, look at the lion. He eats once or maybe in a week or something like that, and he just sits
mm,
there, and his body
yeah,
is made to digest that,
yeah,
but not us. I mean,
mm,
kind of because, and I think most of the cancers of stomach or bowel is because of the meat. I think quite
yeah,
of
yeah, bowel
because
cancer, yeah.
of meat and all those, a lot of meat because it takes a lot longer to digest
Yeah, and
meat.
our intestines are very long, like a herbivore. They're very long, so that the meat starts to rot in there before it comes out the other end. Whereas a meat eater's intestines are much shorter. Cat, dog, tiger, whatever is very short, but like sheep, cow, horse, have very long intestines, and we have intestines like that, 10 times the length of the body, the height of the body. Our intestines, or a meter is normally like 3 times or something. So there's just so many different, factors that indicate that we're actually meant to eat, vegetarian food. We have flat molars. We don't have big nails to rip flesh and everything. We need a knife and fork if we're going to eat meat. So it's not very natural, like that. So there's many different factors. And I mean, you do see, that the bulk of Christians and Muslims they eat meat. So what are you saying that, they can't understand God? But you see that, that often they don't have a very developed understanding of God. And and I would say that there are a minority of Muslims and Christians that have realized that they should be vegetarian. And even there's vegetarian Muslims and vegetarian Christians. And like there's a famous Christian called Saint Francis of Assisi. And there's a whole Christian faith that followed that Saint Francis. They're called Franciscans, I think. And Prabhupada, when he heard about this Saint Francis, who was a Christian, a real Christian, when Prabhupada heard a description of that he saw God in all the creatures. He saw God in all the creatures, and the birds and the fish and the animals and everything like that. He saw that God was there. And he was a vegetarian, fully vegetarian. And he just ate like nuts and berries and herbs and stuff like that. He never ate meat. And he loved all the creatures, all the animals and birds and everything. And when Prabhupada heard about him, Prabhupada said, he is Paramatma realized. He's realized the super soul. God is in the heart of every living thing. So there are Christians that are highly, God conscious. But you see, by their behavior that, they were vegetarian. And Prabhupada, when he would talk with Christians, he would always bring up the point, it says in your Bible, thou shalt not kill. That's one of the commandments, thou shalt not kill. And then he would challenge them, why are you killing? Your own Bible is saying thou shalt not kill. Why are you killing? So you do see there were highly evolved Christians that seriously followed those things. And they were very advanced in Krishna consciousness. Like Prabhupada said, he's Paramatma realized like that. So, and even I've heard it said, a quote from the Quran saying, Allah does not look kindly upon someone that even kills a sparrow. There's one verse in the Quran. It says Allah doesn't look kindly on someone that kills a sparrow. And interestingly, talking about Mecca, interestingly, you can do the research, but whenever they go on pilgrimage to Mecca, a Muslim goes to Mecca, one of the rules they have there, there's no meat eating. And once you enter Mecca for a week or whatever you're spending there or whatever, there's no meat eating allowed. So if you're going to that holy place and you're being a vegetarian, well, why don't you do it all the time? Why only go when you go there and the rest of the time, then you go back and eat meat? But that means that it's not good, right? It's not good. So when you go to the mosque, then you're not consuming meat there. So, why don't you just follow that all the time? So obviously it's not good. So when you go to Mecca, you're not allowed to lie. You're not allowed to steal. You're not allowed to eat meat. So, you have very high level of behavior there. But the thing is, then there'll be a double standard. Then when you go back home, then you lie and you cheat and you eat meat so what's that? So obviously someone doing like that is not a very high level of God consciousness. But those that are a high level, they'll follow that higher level all the time. They'll always be truthful. They'll always be vegetarian. They'll always, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's get into the next one.
And so I'm
When the
not
meat,
saying if you're a meat eater, you can't, have faith in God or whatever like that. But all it's saying is it's it's going to put a block on that higher level of realization of God. So there's so many people believe in God, but their consciousness is not very developed. Their God consciousness is not very developed like that. So if you want it to be developed, then you need to, have very be more strict in your behavior and practices like that. Okay.
when the meat eater saw the coins, he was attracted to them. He then agreed, and that night he cut Sanathan's shackles and let him cross the Ganges. Notice.
Okay.
In this
So,
way, Sanatan Goswami was released. However, he was not able to walk along the path of fortress. Walking day and night, he finally arrived at the hilly tract of land known as Athada. Athada.
mm. So obviously he's had to take some paths that are not commonly used so that no one's going to see him. So obviously it's been a bit of a difficult journey. He's had to go through some difficult tracks, not the main road. He obviously can't walk on the main road like that. But finally he came to this place, Atada. Okay.
After reaching Patada, he met a landlord and submissively requested him to get him across the hilly tract of the land.
Mm.
A
Mm.
man expert in palmistry
Mm.
was at the same time staying with the landlord. Knowing about Sanatan, he whispered the following in the Lord's ear.
Yeah, so
The
obviously
palmist,
people have different abilities and skills. So this person that was living in that same area with the landlord, he could, just by glancing at the palm, he could tell about the person. Like whether they're wealthy or poor or like that. You can tell, by the lines on the hand that how many times the person will get married in their life, or whether they will get married or not, or whether they live a long life or a short life, and like that. So in different ways you can like through astrology you can learn about the person, but also through the palms and like that. So people have this different knowledge. So he's obviously caught a glimpse of his palms, and then and so he knows something about Sanatan now. So now he's informing the landholder. So what's the next one?
the palmist said, this man's Sanatan possesses 8 gold coins. Hearing this, the landlord was very pleased and spoke the following to Sanatan Goswami.
Uh-oh. So that's trouble. That's trouble. Money actually can get us in a lot of trouble, you know, and see, the problem is you might think, well, yeah, I really want a lot of money. I'm going to be so happy. But even if you do get a lot of money, then there'll be other people that will try to take it off you. That's the problem. So, but if you don't have anything, then no one's going to hassle you. But as soon as you've got something, a fancy house, a fancy car, you know, money, whatever, you know, or even a beautiful wife or something like that, then there'll be low class people will try to exploit, you know, will try to exploit, try to take that. And actually, it's interesting talking about a beautiful wife that Chanakya Pandit mentions that one of our enemies is a beautiful wife. And why does he say that? So he says a beautiful wife is an enemy, not necessarily because she's going to treat us badly or whatever, the husband, but there'll be other low class men that will be attracted to that beautiful wife, and you're always going to have to work very hard to try to protect that beautiful wife from being taken away, exploited, or whatever, seduced by these low class men. So in that way, you know, having a beautiful wife can actually be a bit of a disadvantage, looking too good, you know, like that. So that's interesting. So yeah, as soon as you've got something very valuable, there'll be so many problems. So in that sense, that's exactly why an intelligent person who we call a Brahmana on purpose keeps himself in a poverty kind of condition. It's said if you give a Brahmana like a 1 lakh of rupees today, tomorrow he'll be poor again because he'll just give it in charity. He'll whatever he needs, he'll keep that what he needs, and the rest extra he will give it away. Because as soon as you keep extra, then like this is attracting unwanted attention, and so many problems can come from that. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, money is the root of many problems, I guess. Too much of it, yeah. Just
Yeah.
either you're running after it, or are you then you're looking to protect it. Then you you can.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just yeah,
yeah,
it's just the cause of so many. I mean, I'm saying that even though I'm saying that, I'm still I'm not at that level where you say that. Okay, that's I don't have to do too much. It's okay. I mean, I'm not doing too much, but I still you have to protect your money and you think about it. It causes a lot of, then somebody else needs something, then the people behavior it's changes if you have money or
yeah,
not, and all.
yeah,
Just yeah,
yeah.
it's just, I think barter system was good. You just give and take.
Exchange
It's,
material things. Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah,
me
yeah.
look,
I mean, I've
money,
noticed,
everything
I've
now.
noticed up here where we live, this area in the north part of New Zealand, that people up here are very friendly, very helpful, very friendly, got plenty of time to talk and help you. And I'm sure one of the main factors is most people up here are very poor. There's not many rich people up here. Most people are very poor. But the good side of that is that they're very friendly people. And I'm sure that's one of the main reasons why they're friendly is because they don't have a lot of money. As soon
Yeah,
as you've got a lot of money, then you tend not to have time for other
yeah,
people. You're not very helpful to other people. You just become more selfish and everything like that. But yeah, I've noticed a big difference. Big difference.
yeah,
I've never gone to a place where people are so friendly as where we are, and that's because, people are very poor.
yeah. If spiritual, if you don't have understanding, then once money comes in, then you changes you like anything. I mean, it just changes you more. Pride, and more. You
Yeah,
start judging people and all those kind of things. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's, and I think Kali, when he was there, say you will go to the place where you're gonna go and live. So I think Maharaj, some Maharaj, I don't remember,
yeah.
Parikshit,
Parikshit,
some,
Parikshit.
I don't know, some. Go to the where the gold is or something. He said that
Where the gold is being hoarded, yeah.
where
Gold is being hoarded. So yeah, wherever there's more money, there's more chance Kali is going to be involved there. Yeah.
and it's
So that's a risk.
in practical life you can see once people get money they just like yeah it's different, yeah, it changes people unless
Yeah.
you are really spiritual.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a negative thing, but yeah, it can be. It easily can be. If a devotee controls the money, if you keep it under your control, then it can be very useful. You can do lots of good things with money. But if you let the money control you, then it can be very destructive. Like there's a saying, right? The love of money is the root of all evils. It doesn't say money is the root of all evils, but the love of it. Once you become greedy for it and you're always thinking about it. Because what does love mean? Love means attachment. Love means attachment, and love means absorption. You're always thinking about that thing that you love, that person that you love. So if you're always absorbed in money, thinking about it, you're always attached to money like that, you love it, then it's the root of all evils. But if you just use it in a detached way, and that's the recommendation, it's called Yukta Vairagya. So what's recommended by Rupa Goswami? To utilize material things, but in a detached way, like that. And then it's no problem. But it's just a matter of whether, we're detached from the material things or we're attached to them. But we can use anything in Krishna service. And if we do that, just purely in Krishna service in a detached way, not trying to enjoy them for ourselves, but use it for Krishna, then there's no problem at all. No problem at all. And you see, Prabhupada traveled in planes. He had used cars. He used so much money, lots of buildings, temples, restaurants, printing presses, and went on a ship. So many, whatever he could get his hands on, he used it. But he used it for Krishna like that. And that was quite revolutionary because in Indian culture before that, most like swamis and sages and yogis and that, they, avoided using material things like that, realizing that it can put one at great risk, one's spiritual life. So, but if you use it in a very mature way like that, detached way, then it's actually very good. And you see, Prabhupada used all those material things to spread Krishna consciousness so much. With the printing press, he pumped out like millions of books, millions and millions of books. What if you say I'm not going to use that, it's a material thing. What are you going to write it by hand, on some leaves or something? You're not going to get very far. Or if I'm not going to get in the plane, well, how far are you going to get by walking? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he walked throughout India for 6 years. But are we going to say that we're going to do that now? We're just going to walk? No, now the plane is available. The plane is available. So Prabhupada jumped in the plane and he traveled around the whole world like more than once a year, like that. So it was really revolutionary, what Prabhupada was doing. Because previously these the yogis and the devotees were avoiding using material things. But Prabhupada learnt the art of how to use all these things and Krishna's service to a great effect, a good result. Mm.
Mm.
So we'll leave it at that. But if you want to say anything, go
Yeah,
for it.
I think it's all good. Yeah, just looks. Yeah, I mean, we'll reflect on it. Yeah, I mean, good things have come out. I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But I would say that it's said the two biggest traps in spiritual life is money and woman. Money and woman. Or from the woman's point of view, money and man. So it goes both ways, right? So money and women or money and men, they can be big traps. Even I couldn't believe it. I bumped into one of our neighbors like 2 days ago, one guy. His name's Ed. And and I said, like, how are you going? And he said, oh, yeah, well, no, I didn't say that. I said, oh, he said to me, I'm going into town to get some acupuncture. And I said, oh, that's good. You're doing it, looking after your health, your aches and pains, all very naturally. He said, actually, no. He said, my ex-girlfriend stabbed me in the leg. So she stabbed him with a knife in his leg like a couple months ago. And now he's having to get all these treatments to help him with his wound. And he had to be flown in a helicopter. Are you still there? Your picture's frozen. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
You can? Okay. Yeah,
I'm here. I think.
Can you hear?
I think. Yeah, I can hear you. I think
Oh,
your
you
picture
can.
frozen
Okay.
for me.
Just your picture's
It's just
frozen.
great. Yeah.
And yeah,
Oh, okay.
he had to be flown in a helicopter to Auckland. He nearly
Mm.
died. And just the knife just missed his artery in his leg and he nearly bled to death. So and how did that miserable condition come about? Was just through that man and woman relationship. It obviously turned real sour, real bitter. I don't know what happened. But obviously she became really upset with him and just stabbed him in the leg. And she's in jail now. So not only he was suffering, but she's also suffering. She's in prison because she nearly killed this guy. So she's in jail. He's suffering, because his leg has been completely messed up. So that's the thing. You have to be really careful dealing with the material energy. And the most powerful, you could say, forces the material energy Maya has, or Kali has, the most powerful weapons she has to keep us in the material world, entangled in the material world, is money and woman, or men and women, like that, the opposite sex. It can turn like really bad like that if you don't utilize those objects in Christian service, and if you use them for sense gratification, it can become really a cause of suffering so much. And I've seen that so many times. And I've seen also, yeah, money just screw up people like really badly, really badly. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword. There's that saying, right? Double-edged sword. So it can be good, it can be bad, depends on how you use it. So the moral of the story is we have to be very careful. We have to be very careful. The scriptures say that human life is like a razor's edge. You just have to be very careful. Just like when you shave, right? You have to concentrate, be very conscious, because if you space out, not attentive when you're shaving, you'll get cut. So it's like that in the material world. If you're just a little bit inattentive, then you're just gonna get cut. The other day I was doing some gardening for a friend and I was climbing up a tree and I was pruning the top of the tree with some hedge cutters, pruning. And I thought I was going to be very clever and I got off the ladder and actually climbing in the tree, thinking that the tree was going to support my weight, but it didn't support my weight, and I fell down through the middle of the tree. Luckily, it was only about 3 meters in the air, but yeah, I fell down 3 meters through this middle of this tree, this shrub, and could have been really bad. But Krishna saved me. But I was pretty dumb, pretty stupid to do that. But like that, we have to be very careful. We can't just be unconscious. We can't just be ignorant. Otherwise, we're going to pay the price. We're going to pay the price. So we have to always be very conscious, very careful, about, you know, how we're dealing with everything in this material world. Because, yeah, it can bite us big time, you know, and create a lot of suffering, you know, if we don't, you know, so yeah,
Yeah,
more
that's
more conscious.
true. Somebody was saying that money is there, but why somebody wants money? Either this money is they want to, maybe they want a woman, they want name, fame, they
Yeah.
want to impress somebody, all those things. But basic thing is like, um, after, somebody was saying that after, physically you are not into sex or something, then the subtle sex is like, getting appreciation from others and all
Yeah.
those, and
Yeah.
also kind of dangerous. So it's like you're doing to please others. It's not like, so instead of pleasing Krishna, you're trying to please somebody else. You want to
Yeah.
get, name, fame. I mean, yeah, it's all money is basically you want something. You want to
Yeah, I
impress
mean,
somebody.
it's not the money itself that's attractive, but it's
Yeah,
what you can get with the money.
yeah,
You know, if I have money, I can get food. So actually, what you want is the food, but you need money to get food. What you want is sex, but if you have money, then you can get sex. How is that? You
mm,
know, like you're not going to attract a woman if you're poor and you don't have a proper house and everything. So
yeah,
if you get a nice house, nice car, everything, nice clothes, then that will be attractive to the woman. So actually, what you want is the woman, not the money, but you need the money to get the woman. You know,
yeah,
and you know, you want all these kind of, you know, sense objects, you know, sense gratification, and the money is the means to satisfy your senses. So actually what we want is to satisfy the senses, but the money is the way to get that,
get
you
that.
know,
Yeah.
satisfaction for your senses. And that's why people are so mad after money. Huh? Johnny's saying that didn't work for her. What do you mean? Because I didn't have any money, she's saying. Not always true. So yeah, it's not all women are just attracted if you've got money, but actually said the most beautiful thing is the most attractive thing is actually knowledge, gyan. That that is that is also can be very attractive if someone has knowledge, you know. So she definitely wasn't attracted to me because of the money, but yeah, maybe because of the knowledge. So that because right, you know, we got the six opulences, right? Bhagavan has six opulences, and one of them is knowledge. So, what is an opulence? Aishvarya or Bhaga, you know, Bhagavan, full of opulences. So, what does it mean? This opulence? Opulence means something that's very attractive to us. So, one of them is beauty, one of them is wealth. So, we're talking about wealth as attracting. But another thing that's attracting is the knowledge, and then the renunciation, and then the fame. So these are
Right.
all things that are very attractive, six things that attract people. You know, so someone has a lot of knowledge and we get attracted by that. Like Prabhupada, right? He has so much knowledge, it was very attractive. You know, someone's very famous, you know, big politician or sports celebrity or Bollywood star or whatever, you know, we get attracted. They're very famous like that, so many things. Some yogi in the Himalayas is very attractive. He's very renounced, very detached or whatever like that, you know. So
Mm,
interesting, yeah.
yeah. I think that. Thank you very much. Yeah,
That's all right.
it's good
Nice
to
to
talk.
get together
Yeah.
again. Oh, what happened?
Take care, and we'll see
Are you still
you.
there? Oh, your picture
Yeah.
disappeared. I don't know what happened.
I think you can't
Oh,
hear
there you
me.
are.
Yeah, it's. I think something is going. Sometime you're freezing and sometime I'm freezing. I don't know what's going
Okay.
on.